right, I think we'll get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the 10th edition of AlbumWorks Presents, part of our ongoing webinar series. My name is Naomi and I'm a member of our customer service team here in Melbourne. So hopefully everyone's enjoying the webinar series so far and getting lots of great pointers for making amazing photo books. We've got some more fantastic tips for you today. We want this to be an interactive session, so please feel free to ask questions along the way. I'll make time at the end to answer your questions. So to ask a question, you should see the webinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen if you're on a computer. You can type your questions into this dialog box and send it. If you're using a phone or a tablet, you should see a question mark at the top right of your screen, which you can press to type in a question. In this series, I'm working with a downloadable editor on a Windows computer. The Mac version of the editor is the same, so Mac users will be able to follow along as well. Today's webinar should run for about 15 minutes, and today I'd like to run through some essential tips when using our editor. So I'm going to run through some of the queries and issues that our customers ask us all the time. Things that you may not realize about how our program works that will make your experience run smoother. So those things are updating the editor, the print area of a page, warning messages, and critical errors. So let's get started. The first thing that is really important is to make sure that you are using the latest version of our editor. So I'm going to, bring up the editor right now. This is our download editor. And this is the first page that comes up when you open it. At the bottom left, it tells you what version you're using. So you can see here, I have V2020 R1. That is the latest version. If you've got anything that's not 2020, then it is an older one. It will still work. It's fine if you're in the middle of a project, just keep working on it. Do the updates once you've finished it. And the reason I say to do updates is to make sure that you have all the latest products and all the latest features of our editor. The editor should check for updates every time when you open it. Sometimes that doesn't work for some reasons. You might not have an internet connection or whatever. So to check for updates, click on Start New Project. It will take a minute to open, but once it does, down the bottom left, you've got a Check for Updates button. You click on that and it goes through this process of checking on the web to see if there are any updates. If they do come up, it'll say, it'll give you the list. You just click Select All and you can do the updates. Even if they're products you don't think you're working on, it's always a good idea to do all of them. They're very small files and it just makes sure you've got the latest editor and the latest products. Excuse me. So yeah, as I said, if you're working on a project now, finish that one and then do the updates. In a minute, it's going to tell me that I don't have any, which is great. So the next thing I'm going to look at, I'll just let this finish. Hopefully it doesn't take long, but I'm going to talk about the print area of a page. And to do that, I will need to open a project. So here we go. It says no updates are available. Perfect. Okay, I'll click OK. Now I'm just going to start any book. It doesn't really matter for this purpose. I'll just use Build Your Own Theme. And I will choose an 11 by, I'm going to do a high definition book, 11 by 8.5 inch. I'm not going to worry about adding photos yet. I'll do that when we get there. I'll just call it birthday book just for the sake of it, and we'll create. So it's going to open up my book in a minute. When I talk about the print area of a page, I'm talking about where the pages are trimmed. So most companies will not let you go anywhere near the edge of the page with your design, and that is to stop you from going near the trim area where the pages are trimmed. The trimming is never millimeter perfect, so although we aim to trim on this red dotted line is the trimming area, we aim to trim on that line. It's not always perfect. Your books could be trimmed 2 to 3 millimeters on either side of the red line. And on the cover, the red dotted line is your folding line. So that is where we aim to fold the cover, but it's, again, could be slightly inside or outside that line. So I'm just going to open up page 1. You'll see the area between the red and the outside blue lines is smaller. It's about 3, it is exactly 3 millimeters, and that's called the bleed area. So if you want an image to take up a whole page with no, you don't want to see any background, then you need to make sure you take it all the way to the blue line, and that will ensure that there's nothing, no white strips when the pages are trimmed. Let's just add some photos. We'll just click on the plus sign computer. We'll add a folder. I'm just going to add from my documents folder, webinars, I have my photos, and I'll select that. So I've got a photo here of my boys, and I want that to take up the whole page because it's a really nice photo. So the best way to make sure you do that correctly for full page images is to right click on the photo. It's thinking, yep, and then left click on fit and then fit to page. And see how it's made sure that it goes all the way to the blue line. That's the easiest way to do it for full page images. And notice, so the head here is still within the red line, so that's fairly safe. It's just a couple of mils in, so it should be okay. If I had a photo that where it's going to be cut off, the head's going to be cut off if I put it, sorry, if it goes all the way to the edge of the page, then I may need to think about making that photo smaller on the page. I actually don't have one here, but the other option is to make the photo smaller on the page and then just center it, and you've got a lovely white background behind it. So do that if the heads are going to be past the red line, then don't spread it all the way to the edge of the page. The same applies for text. You need to make sure all text is well inside the red line, because otherwise it's going to get cut off or partly trimmed. So this, one of the reasons why you should do the latest updates is we now have a feature in the editor that is called a magnetic bleed, and it makes sure that if you put a photo on the red line here, and so at the moment you might end up with some white at the edges. When I let go of this photo, it makes it go to the blue line. Or if I put it just inside the red line, it automatically moves it to well inside that line, so that you're not going to lose, so that you're not going to be right near that trim area. So that's an automatic feature. And the same with text. If I add a text box, and I'll just put something in it. So if I move that text box, at the moment, see if the bottom of the text box is past the red line, it is going to automatically move it up. Let's just make the text box smaller. And so if I put that here now, the program doesn't move it. If I put it touching the red line, it automatically shifts it inside for me. So it's quite a nice little feature. The other thing that's quite useful if you're not sure how close you are to the edge of the page is if you click on the view menu, there are grids and guides. You click on grids and guides and show grid, and it shows you a grid of the page. Every line is 1 centimeter. You can change what it shows you, but like how small the gaps are. But yeah, you can, if you do, so half of one of these lines is half a centimeter, obviously. So you can, it helps you work out how close you are to the trim area. The other thing, this also applies to the cover. So if you're putting text on the spine, because there can be some movement in the spine, in the way that the cover is folded, you need to make sure that any text is not too is not too close to the edge. So at the moment, my text is touching the black line that shows you the spine. So better to make that text smaller, which I will do. I'll just make it a 10-point font, which is still big enough to read. and it's still touching that line, so I just need to move it over slightly. That's not working. Sometimes you have to click on the view menu. There is an option to snap to grid. If I untick that, then I can use my keyboard to move it slightly. So I'm just making sure there's enough room between that and the edges of the spine. So that's not going to get cut off now, or it's not going to get folded over. So that's pretty much print area. The next thing I was going to talk about are warning messages and critical errors. And I'll just get rid of these grids. So click on grids and hide grid, and that goes away. All right, so when you're finished making a book, the first thing you do is click on Add to Cart. And what that does is it brings up flight check results. And this is really important. Most people ignore it because they think, oh yeah, it's all good. You do need to read these. So any issues that are warnings only will have a yellow triangle next to them. Anything that has a red triangle next to it is a critical error and needs to be fixed. So at the moment I've only got warnings, and I'll just tell you that there's roughly three different warning messages that you tend to get. One of them is empty picture box. That means you've got a white box with a cross through it on your page that you haven't used. If you can see it, delete it. It's just easier, and it means you can see what your design looks like. If you can't see it on the page, it's hidden behind your work, so don't worry about it. But yeah, if you can see it, it is a good idea to delete it. The other ones are empty page. That means that you do have a blank page in your book. If you haven't used all your pages, you need to delete them if you don't want them to print, otherwise they will print. The other one is empty text box. So I'm just going to, if I add a text box and I haven't put anything in it, and then I go to Add to Cart again, it tells me I have an empty text box. Again, this is only a warning. Empty text boxes won't print, so it's not a big deal if you don't get rid of it. I do apologize. There is a fourth warning message that comes up, and that is low quality picture. I have this picture here. Now it is low quality, so see how it's got a red triangle on it? It says low quality. And that warning is also going to come up when I click on Add to Cart. You really do need to pay attention to this, because otherwise the picture is going to be printed blurry and pixelated, and it's not going to look good. What can you do about a low quality photo? Well, you can't make a photo higher quality once you've already taken it, whatever device you've taken it on. So you either need to make the photo smaller on the page, which will help with the resolution, or replace it with a high quality photo. Now, to tell if it's really low resolution, the best thing to do is to click on the photo and then drag, make it smaller. See how the red triangle's still there, still there, still there, still there. Let's see how small I have to go before that red triangle disappears. Quite small. So this is not a very good photo for the cover. All right, it's finally disappeared. That's actually, hang on, I'll just, you know why? Because it was cropping it, sorry. Hang on, I'm just going to fit the box to the picture so we see the whole picture. Okay, so I can make it bigger. Now I get the red triangle. So that's about as big as I can make it before it's low quality. If I make it bigger, it's going to be blurry. So you do need to pay attention to that. If I think that's too small, well, I'll just have to choose a different photo that's higher resolution. Right, so those are pretty much the warning messages. Then we get to critical errors. And there are usually three possibilities. The first one is text overflows box. So let's go back to my text box over here. And accidentally, I've hit enter a few times on my text box. So even though you can't see that I've hit enter, the program thinks that I've added extra lines to my box, and it says text overflows box. And this warning will also come up when I click on Add to Cart. Sorry, I've got something in my way. So you'll see here text overflows box. Any critical warnings have to be fixed. It's not going to let me continue. If I click continue, it says the project contains items that will not print properly and I have to fix them. So let's go back. Now to fix this, one way to fix it is to try and make the text box bigger and see if that warning goes. See, that worked because I've added a few lines of text. But say I've added a whole bunch of lines. Making the text box bigger is not going to fix it because they're still there. So the way to fix that is to double click into the text box, put your cursor at the end of your last word, and then press the delete key on your keyboard. What that does is deletes anything after your last letter. So see how that box is now turned from red to black? That means I'm now within, all my text is within that box. And there won't be a problem printing it. The next critical error that is a big one that unfortunately our customers seem to have is called missing picture. So I have the picture of the dog on the front cover. Sorry. It's not what I'm trying to do. Now, so when you add photos to your project, our program sources those photos from where they're stored on your computer. It does not take them from this picture list on the left-hand side. That list is just there for you to select your photos. Once they're in the book, the program looks for them in the file path where they're located. If I were to right-click on this photo and say open show in Windows Explorer, this is where it's looking for that photo. If I were to move that photo, so I'm going to take the dog, I'm going to cut it from there, and I'm going to put it in my downloads folder. I'm pasting it there. I now go back to my editor and look, oh, there's a warning message on here and it says missing picture. So this is because, excuse me, it's looking for it in the folder where it originally was. It doesn't know that I've moved it to the downloads folder. The simple way to fix this is put the photo back where it was. If you've got a whole lot of photos and you can't put them back where they were, you don't know where they came from, the simplest answer is to tell the program, our program, where the photos are now stored, and I'll teach you how to do that. So we're going to close this project because that's the easiest way. So file, close. I'm going to save my work because I don't want to lose it. What happens now, I'm going to try and reopen the project. So I'm going to click on open an existing project. I will click on my project in the list, which should be under today. There we go. There it is, and we'll click on open. And the first message that comes up says the following images are missing. So you can click on find pictures and it'll show me the images that are missing, and they'll have a red text there. If I click on that photo, at the bottom of that screen, it tells me where that photo is located. So it's looking for it in my C drive, under documents, webinar photos, my photos. That's where it should be. That's where it was when I added it, but it's not there anymore. So to get it back, I can click on update and I can tell it where that photo is now located. And it is in my downloads folder, and I need to look for that exact file number, which ends in 719. So where is it here? There it is right at the top. So click on it and click on select. And it says, are you sure you wish to update this box with this picture? And I will say yes. If I chose the wrong photo, it will tell me I've chosen the wrong photo because it knows the file name. So say yes. And now the text has turned from red to black. Once I've done all the photos, I can then click continue and get into the project again. And it now looks for that photo where it's stored in the new location. So it's all good. So the short answer to this is don't move your photos from where they're stored on your computer. Once you've put them in folders and added them to your book, leave them in those folders. The only other critical error that I see sometimes is photo box needs updating, and that happens if you edit a photo outside of our program after you've put the big picture in the book. It doesn't come up very often now because I think the computers are getting quite smart and recognizing whether what to do with the photo. But if it does come up, you just right-click on the photo and there'll be an option to update picture box. So that's pretty much it for all the little things that we get wrong that are good to know. So if you have any questions, if you can send them through to me now while I do a quick recap, and then I can look at them and hopefully answer them for you. So just going through what we've talked about, the first thing is remember to check for updates when you're starting a new project. Make sure that you've got the latest version, which at the moment is 2020 R1. Also check that all important content in your book is well inside the trim line, the red dotted line, and any full page images are spread to the blue line at the edge of the page, or any images that you want to go off the page edge. Be sure to check the warnings and the critical errors in the flight check results. That's really important before you continue with ordering your project. All right, bear with me for one moment while I check for questions. Okay, one question we have here is regarding checking your text in the project. It is a bit hard to read. Sorry, I'll just bring up the editor. So if you were to add a text box to your page, actually we'll open up a blank page, we'll add a text box. If I start typing in here, it is pretty small and it can be hard to read and check your spelling. Agreed. This is a normal 12-point Arial font, so it's a normal size you'd use for a book. There's a couple of ways to check it. One of them is that you have a magnifying glass here, which you can zoom in on the page. That helps you read it. The other thing you can do is when you finish your project, you can create proofs. So if you click on File and then Create Proofs, it's going to do the flight check results. Just click Continue. You can then save your project as a multi-page PDF, and you can choose where you want to save it to. Just select a destination and click OK. And that will save a PDF of all your pages. You can then zoom in and out and check your spelling, and you can come back and check if anything needs fixing. The other thing you can do is you can type into a Word document, for example, put all your text in there, do a spell check in there, and then copy your text in the Word document, and then paste it into a text box in our program. And that way, at least you know that the spelling's all correct. I believe that is all we have. Sorry. Actually, let me just double check. Yep, that seems to be the only question we have. Oh, no, sorry, I do have one more. Okay, someone's asked what if your photo is on a USB stick? That's fine. As long as you have that USB stick plugged in while you're making the book and while you're ordering the book, you won't get the missing pictures warning. If you pull that USB stick out, then the program can't find your images, and so you're going to get that missing pictures warning. It is safer to have your photos on your hard drive, because sometimes when you take a USB stick out and plug it back in, it actually maps it to a different drive. I'm getting a bit technical here, but yeah, it is safer to have them on your hard drive. And if you can't have photos on two different USB sticks if they're not both plugged in, it's not going to work. So easy to put them on your hard drive. All right. Let me just check if there's anything else. Okay, someone is asking a question about calendars. I think it is a bit of a long question, which I won't cover today. So perhaps give us a call afterwards and happy to talk through it with you. And we'll go through it there. All right, that is all I've got time for. But if you do have any other queries, just give us a call. I'll let you know. So our customer service team are here Monday to Friday, 9 till 5:30 p.m. and that's Melbourne time. We're also here Saturday mornings till 12, sometimes a bit longer. You can call us on 1300 553 448 and you can speak to Clyde, Jean-Louis or me. Don't hesitate to call for any of these questions. We're always happy to help.